I love typing on mechanical keyboards. They don't make me faster or more accurate, but they do make the typing experience so much more enjoyable. The only problem is that they're rather bulky, and if you've never used one before, they can feel just a little bit chunky. And so I bought the Keychron K7, which is one of the most affordable, low-profile mechanical keyboards on the market, to see how this feels to use in comparison to other mechanical keyboards out there. Keychron offers multiple sizes of their low-profile keyboards, specifically the K1, the K3, the K5, and then of course the K7. And the K7 is the smallest of that keyboard lineup, and I did that intentionally. You see, most of the work that I do involves spreadsheets with a lot of numbers, and for that work, I prefer a full-size keyboard with a number pad. But when I'm just writing, which I do quite often, I prefer the feel of a more compact, smaller keyboard. And I feel that 65%, which is the size of the K7, is the perfect layout because you don't lose a lot of functionality by moving the F keys down to the second layer behind the number keys in the keyboard layout. The other size that I think would be really good for typing is a 75% keyboard layout, which retains the F keys as their own row above the number keys. But either way, I think that this is a really, really good layout for typing because it's small and it's compact, but you don't lose the functionality of most of the keys. The only other reason that I chose the 65% keyboard layout instead of the other ones is that the K5, their full-size keyboard, is always sold out, and so I couldn't get a hold of it anyway. Now I'm using the non-hot swappable white backlight version of this keyboard with the Keychron brown switches. Now I know that red switches are all the rage, but I prefer the feel and sound of brown switches over red switches, and especially over blue switches. And speaking of sound, I think this keyboard is just a little bit too quiet. I feel like part of the experience of having a mechanical keyboard is that extra noise that you get from the switch when you bottom out on the keyboard. And maybe it has to do with the fact that there's less travel distance for these switches. I'm not 100% sure about that. Or it could just be with the way that the keycaps are, shaped or something about the case, but I don't get the same thought that I get on other keyboards, and that's something that I kind of miss because I feel like that's a really big part of owning a mechanical keyboard and using it. But besides sound, I also think that the keyboard feels just a little bit mushy. And that could be some overlubing from the factory, it could also just be my unit, or it could also be with the fact that the switches themselves are lower profile than normal Keychron brown switches. Either way, the point is they just don't have that distinct crisp click in the same way that my other Keychron brown switch keyboards have. And that is something that I'm missing on this keyboard and that I wish it had just a little bit more of. But if you're a fan of red switches or blue switches, maybe this won't be much of a problem for you. But those are really my only two complaints that I have with the keyboard. It didn't feel cramped despite it being super compact, and it only took me like a couple of seconds to get used to where all of the keys were, and so it didn't mess me up with typing at all, which I think is really wonderful. Plus, it's built on an aluminum chassis, so it's cold to the touch, which doesn't make you type faster, but it does feel really good to type on. And it also just looks really, really phenomenal. The colorway that Keychron is dialed in is really phenomenal. With the double grays and the key, or the orange escape key, it just looks really good to type on and it feels really good to use overall. It's not my favorite though. So even though I think I might keep it, I don't know if I would recommend it as a first or even a second keyboard if you're starting to get into the mechanical keyboard space. Yes, it's beautiful, it's rigid, it looks great, it feels good to use, but I don't know if it's the best out there. There are other options. And in fact, I'm about to review another keyboard in the low-profile mechanical keyboard space called the Newfie Air 75, which is a 75% keyboard layout, and I've been using it for a little bit. I kind of really like the way that one feels. So get subs so you don't miss that review. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Is this a keeper? Have you purchased it? What did you think about it? We'll see you in the next video.